Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm gonna be giving you part 3 of What If Naruto Was Neglected with Shibai Otsutsuki Karma Seal. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also, guys, don't forget to go ahead and check out the other channels. Yes, if you're new, I indeed have 4 more channels that I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. Anime King 2, Anime King 3, Anime Symbol, and Anime Prince. All of the links will be down in the description, so go ahead and click that red subscribe button so you can become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this brand new episode? Begin now, guys. So, the last part that we left off. Today was supposed to be a wonderful day. Mito thought. Both her and Menma were graduating. It was exciting. They were finally graduating. They were going to become real ninjas. Actual ninjas, and yet, one of their biggest enemies was now on the loose. Granted, he wasn't as strong as them, from what their parents had told them, but he wanted to kill them. If it wasn't for their mom or dad, neither of them would have been here right now. Because his one goal was to end their life. And he was their own brother. Yes, he was their brother. He was older than them. He was supposed to protect and look after them, but he was a monster. Their mom had made them know that they should do everything in their power to protect themselves, because he did not see them as family. He saw them as someone that he wanted to get rid of. So they had to fight if the opportunity was to present itself in the coming future. We then skipped to Naruto, as he was residing in a cave. He had put a large stone to block the exit. As Naruto stepped out, moving towards the water, Naruto realized that his face was different. His hair had turned pure white. His eyes were clear like a Hyuga's, but more pronounced and clear. If one did not take a closer look, they would think that he was blind. Naruto figured that he needed to understand what is going on with him. He had the vague memories and the vague knowledge of someone telling him that he should be their successor. Something along those lines. And at the moment, Naruto wanted to see what he was capable of now, as he had spent his whole life having nothing, being nothing. That woman that claimed to be his stepmother was a horrible wrench who did everything that she possibly could to make his life a living hell, to ensure that he did not get any moment of happiness. When he found out that they took his mother away and covered it up, he lost it in rage. Yes, he lost himself. But now, things were different. He was blessed, like a gift from the heavens, as he started to manipulate the chakra that was now oozing out of him. The markings over his body, if he was not mistaken, something about karma. They were a signal of his power, it seems, as Naruto was able to manipulate all the elements with pretty much ease. He wasn't able to release anything specific, or was he able to do anything dramatic, but given the fact that he never ever tested himself and he could do this was a huge stepping point in his goal of achieving complete and utter destruction upon all of them. So with that, he started to practice. A few weeks went by as Naruto had learned a lot about himself. He had also grown a lot. Naruto's name was becoming quite popular around the elemental nation because he was moving from places to places. He had went after at least a dozen bandit camp. He took everything that they had. After all, he knew that to survive in this world, you could not afford to be soft. So yes, Naruto went for it. Anyone that got in his way, he made sure to show them that they were nothing. He's become a bit too cocky for his own good as well. Naruto made his way to another bandit camp, as he told the leader that he would hand over everything that is valuable, otherwise he would reduce him to a pile of ash. The man burst out laughing along with his soldiers, wondering where a kid get the nerves. However, as they all dogpiled Naruto felt this rush, this insane wave. Before he could even fixate on what was going on, his mind produced something that was just incredible. He felt so superior. It was almighty, and he pushed them. Saying the name, Naruto launched all of them away. He later learned that he could also reverse the effects by pulling people towards him. But not just that, he could also create weapons. They were all red, and they were quite durable as well. Naruto also had a slit in his forehead. So with that, he made his way off. Some time passed as we found Naruto facing off against Hidan, a Jashinist who was rather crazy. Hidan and Naruto square off against each other. Hidan performed his technique, believing that it would be enough to take Naruto down. However, Naruto laughed in his face. He's been through much worse. Because of that woman, he understands pain. He's been in prison and got the shit beaten out of him until he couldn't even move, where all of his bones were broken. And he didn't heal fast. Not at all. So yes, this pain meant nothing to him. As Naruto wrapped the chain around Hidan's neck, that is when members of the organization known as the Akatsuki pull up on the scene. It was three of them, a member known as Kisame, another one, a woman known as Reina, and another woman known as Konan. They spoke to Hidan and get him to join. As Naruto was going to leave, Konan told him that she wanted him to join the organization as well. Naruto tried to flee, but Reina hit him so hard that he was sent through several trees. As Naruto was shocked by her strength, and when she appeared in front of him, her speed was just ridiculous. She obliterated the ground as Naruto fled. Naruto then took off into the sky, revealing that he could also fly as well. Konan went after him as she pursued. She rained attacks down on him, forced him to crash in the ground. That is when they surrounded him, as Naruto, instead of being afraid, got pissed. If these people think they can force him to do something, if they think they could take his life before he accomplished his dreams, they had another thing coming as Naruto started to power up, and in doing so he started to cause a literal storm. With a simple fluctuation of rage, Konan noticed that. Naruto used it as a way to get out of there as Kisame and Hidan was coming. Konan reported this back towards Nagato because Naruto had said almighty push, and he did not possess the Rinnegan. No, that was unusual, and his power was dramatic. Reina was interested. She was also a member of the organization. We later find Naruto hunkered down in a cave. He had no idea why he just stopped here, but it felt like something drew him to this place. That is when his eyes was able to see something rather shocking. Naruto absorbed the chakra, something that he didn't know he could do from the seal, and he found a coffin buried underground. Jashin was also taking an interest in Naruto. The person that Hidan called a god called Naruto Otsutsuki and said he wasn't supposed to be possible. So yes, something is rather wrong there. As for Naruto, when he opened the coffin, he was in for the shock of his life. So yeah guys, basically let's be left off. You guys can switch across the play, check it out for yourself. So just begin this new episode. We begin this new episode at Konoha. The selections were made, and the teams were picked. Starting from Team 7, where Mito Namikaze would be, followed by Sasuke Uchiha and Kiba Inuzaka. Their Jonin sensei will be Kakashi Hatake. Mito was happy to hear that. She knew Kakashi quite well. In fact, she called him Uncle Kakashi. And for Team 8, one of her closest friends, Hinata Hyuga. There was also Shinwa Burmei and a boy known as Muzan. For a young age, he seemed to excel in tracking quite well. Team 9 was still in circulation. As for Team 10, it was the Inoshika Cho. Team 11 was 3 other kids in the class. Her brother was placed on Team 12, along with Ami Uzuki, one of her another close friends. She was by her house a lot because her older sister was a student of her mother. Yes, her name was Yuji Uzuki. Her mother Kushina had taught her in Kinjutsu. That is why Mito and Menma excel so much in that art. Kushina had made sure that the both of them were able to ingrain that into their basic fighting style. Sakura Haruno was also on Team 12, another member of the class, a very smart kunoichi. So that was it with Menma there. Their sensei was known as a man named Yamato. They weren't quite sure who that was though, as Aruka dismissed himself, telling them to wait on their sensei. As they started to talk, both Mito and Menma conversed and spoke to everyone around them, but in the back of their mind, they were still thinking about the threat that was out there. It was just something that they could not forgotten, because it kind of haunted them to think, what if he had gotten to them before their parents had made a move? Unknown to them both, Kushina had not told them, as Minato and Kushina believed that it was best for them to not to know the full details. After all, Naruto had gotten to them. The only reason why they live is because of the Nine Tails. That is the only reason. If it wasn't for that, they both would be dead. Yes, long dead. At the moment, Kushina was discussing with one of her close friends. Her name was Mikoto Uchiha, a member of the famous Uchiha clan. Mikoto was worried what this meant for the children. Her youngest son Sasuke Uchiha was rather close to the twins, really close. So that meant if someone was coming after them, Sasuke was eventually going to be dragged into it, because she had no doubt that he would not stand by and just allow them to get harmed. However, Kushina ensured her that they were all prepared, as stubborn and closed off that Fukaku was. He had shown Sasuke how to properly defend himself, and Itachi was a great older brother. There were some bad feelings between the clan and the village. However, Minato was able to sort things out with Fukaku. Things got really bad at one point, but they were able to come to an understanding, and in doing so, Minato had stripped a lot of the power that Danzo, Koharu, and Homura possess. Yes, he stripped a lot of it away. It was to make sure that Konoha would stay peaceful. However, his mind could not rest, knowing that his son that seek his demise was out there. Granted, Naruto did not possess the physical attribute to take him or his family down. However, his mind was what Minato was worrying about. The child was smart. He made up for his lack in powers for being unusually smart. And Minato knew that you could not take anything for granted in this world. Otherwise, you might suffer the consequences. As he was thinking about that, filling out a few paperwork, Naruto was just waking up. Naruto was a bit groggy. His mind was pulsating. His head was pounding. It all happened so fast. Naruto glanced over toward his left, where he saw a girl. She was leaning up against the wall. Her head was down, and she was unconscious. Naruto turned back toward the destroyed ground, where the coffin resided. It all happened so fast. Flashback. Naruto had came to this cave, and he had found something rather unusual, buried underneath the ground. He was able to siphon off the chakra from the seal, something that he did not know that he even possessed. Somehow it was able to recycle the chakra and use it to keep whatever it was bind and locked away. This was a very powerful seal, and it seemed to be old as well. This area has not been disturbed, maybe 50, 60 years. He was not sure. When Naruto finally got the coffin, there were chains bind around it. However, these were special chains made from chakra. Whatever was inside, they didn't want it getting out. However, Naruto, he went for it. After removing the chakra, Naruto simply ripped the chains off and opened the lid. What he saw surprised him. Lying inside was a girl. She was unconscious. She had black hair. Her eyes were closed. She was dressed in a gray coat with a black skirt, and the boots that she was wearing, they had on stitchings that came up, stopping at her knee. Naruto was confused. What the hell is a girl doing right here? She looked ordinary. Naruto reached forward. However, the moment his hand got too close, her hand lashed out and grabbed his wrist. She seemed to be in fight or flight. She did not hesitate as she dragged him forward. Naruto, hunching over the coffin, made his position a bit awkward. She proceeded to slam her skull into his, with the intention of knocking him out. However, in that moment, Naruto tried to protect himself with his chakra because his arms were preoccupied. However, something unusual happened. Another one of his abilities came to the surface. When their skull met, Naruto's chakra seemed to combine with hers. The effect was also one that affected her. Their minds linked together. For what seemed to be a second was countless of years for the both of them, because they witnessed each other's life. Naruto, being unsophisticated with these abilities and not knowing how to exactly wield them because they were just coming so fast and they were new. However, the collision caused a rupture, following a violent blast that sent the both of them to the opposite side. Their mind, it took on too much information and they blacked out. Naruto's mind and powers were still growing, so at the moment he didn't have the capability of simply brushing what just happened off. She was also knocked out as well. In the flashback, she slowly started to regain consciousness. Everything was still blurry. Sounds were just coming back to her. For years upon years, she was trapped. The seal offered her no forgiveness of time. She was motionless. She wouldn't age. She wouldn't starve. However, she was stuck, forced to suffer, forced to just remain, exist as time passed her by. She kept her mind stable though, because she knew if she had lost her mind, it would have all been for naught. She focused on only one thing, only one desire, and that was to destroy them. To destroy them all for what they did to her. Her eyes violently snapped open, only to see someone standing, looking at her. She gazed at him for a moment, preparing herself for the inevitable action that she will have to make. He was like them. He has to She paused when she suddenly gripped her head and screamed. A violent scream that tore through the cave that she resided in. Naruto rushed to her side. However, she pushed him away. Get away, she said, knocking him away from her. She saw it. His life. There was no doubt about it. It was him. She watched him. She gazed at him. Everything forced into her skull so fast. It felt like her head was being split apart. And at the same time, this was a first vision that she was witnessing since she had been sealed away. She saw his life. She saw how his stepmother treated him. She saw what she put him through, intentionally, actively trying to make him suffer. Maybe his existence brought her misery or something, but this hate was not normal. She saw how she turned the twins away from him. Even his own father, who should stand by his side, favor his new family over his forgotten son. She saw when he found out about the death of his mother and how it actually happened. She saw and felt his rage, his bloodlust, the intent to kill them, and what he did. But even then he failed, and he tried again. He was thrown in prison. For years, he was beaten, near to death, only left alive by their wishes that they were given from their supplier who paid them. They beat him half to death. He was too weak to fight back. His face was busted open. Scars lined his body. It was horrendous. She even came to visit him, telling him that he deserved much worse for what he tried to do to her children, that he was a monster, and he would never escape this hell. He was not right in the mind, and everyone knew that. That is why they put him down here. Her eyes snapped open. She looked at him. Standing there looking at her was Naruto. The place was silent as they simply looked at each other. As for Naruto, what was running through his mind was completely different from hers. He saw her life. He saw who she was. However, unlike her who saw him when he was in his earlier years, starting from 4 years old going up, he saw through her eyes from when she was a baby. He saw her parents. Somehow he was able to see the surroundings, despite that time being long gone, which confused him. However, he saw who she was. They took her name away from her. She was a Uchiha. He was shocked to find a Uchiha out here of all places. This was a big surprise. She was raised as an orphan in the Warring State period. She lost her parents. She didn't even get to know them. However, her clan soon saw the extraordinary ability that she possessed. They even implanted other Mangekyo ability into her. She was truly extraordinary. However, they used her as a weapon. The Senju clan could not take her on. So them and the Sarutobi clan came together in order to seal her away. And that is what they did. She was victimized and treated like garbage by her own clan. She was given the name Nadashi. Nadashi literally meant nothing. Something without a name. They tried to dehumanize her, to tell her that she was the weapon for them, and that is the only thing that she exists to do. And she's been doing it until she was sealed away. However, he could feel her hatred, not just for one clan but for all shinobis. Naruto, having seen this girl's life right in front of his eyes, felt sad for her. His life was nothing normal, but she was also put through it as well. Even worse. Naruto stepped forward as she flinched away from him, her body reacting on instinct. "It's okay," said Naruto. "I'm not gonna hurt you. You're safe." She looked at him oddly. "It's kind of hard to explain, but I just saw your entire life. I know who you are. I know what they did to you. And that name, that vile name that they gave you, that is not your true name. I don't know how, but I saw your parents. I saw them through your eyes. They wanted you to live in the light as much as possible. They wanted you to be free. That is why they name you." Her Sharingan sprang to life. "Hikari Uchiha," said Naruto. The girl now identified as Hikari looked at him, her eyes coming alive because she wanted to see if his words were laced with lies, just like the others, or if this one was different. She was giving him a chance after seeing what he's been through, what has happened to him, and the desires and hate in his heart, similar to hers. She looked at him. His words were truthful. At first she thought that he was blind. However, that was not the case. But when she peered at him with her Sharingan, she was able to see something unusual. His body was flowing with chakra. It seems like he was a source, not just a vine of chakra. He was a source that gave off to the vines. She looked at him in shock as everything off his transformation came to her. It seems like not only their memories connected but their minds in that moment, because she knew his thoughts. She was finding it ridiculous, as he thought that he was gifted these powers by a god, as they were the reason of his change. She saw his features when he was younger, and he was completely different. She had yet to say a word. She was finding it hard to. Not physically, of course. She spent so much years, so much hate. It was hard for her to trust, despite already knowing so much about him. However, it seems like she wasn't the only one that was affected. However, her name. It was hard for her to even believe in his words, despite knowing that what he said was the truth. She has been through so much. The way her own clan put her through it. It was just hard. "It's alright," said Naruto, getting to his feet, as he started to walk over to the side as he picked up something and started to shear in a bowl. He made his way back towards her and placed the stew in front of her. He sheared another for himself as he sat down right there to the side. "You must be hungry," he said. That was all he said. She looked at the food. She watched him as he started to eat. He was trying to show that she could trust him, and she noticed that. She looked down towards it. She did not move for a long minute. Her body was reclining to being out of the seal, and it came with exhaustion, hunger, and tiredness, which was strange given the fact that she was basically in a form of deep sleep. And the smell of this thing in front of her, it was whipping at her nose. She tenderly reached forward and took it as she started to eat slowly. She was watching him every time. He did not try to force her to talk. He just sat there calmly, gazing out towards the opening of the cave. As she stood there watching him, she had to say, the meal was divine. Being this hungry, maybe that was a part of it, or maybe he was just a great cook. As she finally spoke, Naruto turned towards her, hearing her speak. I saw your life as well. A look of surprise was on his face. You did, he said. Huh, sorry it wasn't a better show. She noticed that about his personality. Despite what he went through, he did not show it. She seen him. She watched his life. He did not show anger or have an awful personality. In fact, he was unusually kind and calm. Well, to certain people. Her, for example, at the moment. However, it was covered. She saw a glimpse of it. Just a tiny glimpse in their exchange. That festering heap. Something that seemed to be able to burn this world at least 1,000 times over. Covered by himself to not release. As Naruto kept on looking at her, she looked away to the side. It felt strange, talking to someone again. However, she wanted to know how he did it. How he was able to hold back the darkness that resided inside of him. How he was able to keep on going after what he was put through. After all was taken away from him. His own father betrayed him. How could he still keep on going? How, she said. Despite her hatred, despite her pain, a part of her wanted to give up. She felt like a slave like she was back then, when they kept her in a cage, and only used her when they wanted. How what, said Naruto. How do you keep on going? After all of it, I saw everything. I saw what happened to you in that prison cell. Day after day, weeks after weeks, months after months, years after years. They beat you relentlessly. They did not stop. How are you like the way you are? Naruto got to his feet as a heavy sigh resonated from him. How am I like this? Well, that's simple. If I wasn't, I would have ended myself a long time ago. I know it sounds rather strange, but what can I say? I'm a fighter. I fought through a lot, so giving up now would be a waste of time for everything I went through. And besides, if you truly saw everything, you would know that things are different now. Do you really believe a God chose you to bless you with those powers? Well, I didn't have them before. And that conversation where he was the only one speaking, more and more it is coming back to me. So yes, I am meant for something greater than this. However, I can't just move on to greatness without getting my revenge. You want to know what keep me going? It's the thought that Naruto paused. No, tell me, she said. I'd rather not. Tell me, please, she asked him. She needed to hear it. She had to. Naruto turned as he finally faced her. His white eyes were pulsating unusually. You want to hear it? Are you sure? He said to her. She nodded her head. They've wronged me, time and time again. My own father. A father who is to keep you safe and protected. He turned his back upon me. He betrayed me. And that wench of a woman, she turned everyone against me. Yes, what I did was wrong, but they pushed me to do that. They took my mother. They took my aunt. They took everything away from me. So before I ascend to whatever greatness that I was given these powers for, I'm gonna enjoy when I turn my wrath upon them, when the time is right. That is what I'm looking forward to. And that is one of the reasons why I'm still pushing. Those people, not just them, but the whole village, those council members that condemn me to be mentally unstable, as I was thrown behind bars. For what? For a crime that they started. For a crime that they began in the first place. All of them. I know that they're not all guilty, but in my eyes, they're all guilty. Not just that village though, said Naruto. This is how the world is structured. This is how the world is at the moment. People live, people fight, people die. People suffer because they cannot defend themselves. And I know that more than anyone else. I was weak, pathetic. So the ones with power, the ones with strength, they enjoy their superiority over me. And they show me that every day by beating the living crap out of me time and time again. And I know that this is how the rest of the world is. But now things are different. Now I can make a change. Because I have the power to do so. Now, I can change this God-forsaken world. Upon saying that, she heard something as she turned. The rain was falling all of a sudden. Her gaze turned back towards him as she saw that look in his eyes. Her Sharingan had documented everything that he said. It was stuck in her mind. Naruto looked towards her. Her eyes were getting droopy. Your body seemed to be quite exhausted, he said, looking over her. He didn't know, but he could tell that she was exhausted. You can sleep. I promise you, said Naruto. No one will harm you. No one will touch you. As he went over and brought over a few blankets and something for her to rest her head on, as he placed it in front of her, he then made his way towards the exit and stood there. As he glanced over his shoulder, I'll watch over you and keep you safe. She was still quiet as she was just looking at him. So many thoughts, so many things running through her mind. She lay her head as her eyes deactivated. However, the last thing that she lay her eyes on was the back of him, hoping that he would stay, hoping that he wouldn't abandon her, praying that he wouldn't, as she fell asleep. As for Naruto, as he stood there watching, the rain tear down on the cave. He was calm. For a long time now, he knew that he was going to find a way to make every one of them in that village pay, except for one. However, his goals had to be bigger. His dreams had to be larger. He was gaining such power. He had to do something about it. These people, these forces, these nations, just because of their might, they feel they were unstoppable, untouchable. How much people has died because these leaders believed that it was a good idea to go to war? How much? This world was corrupted. This world was evil. This world was broken. And now he was gaining the power. He felt this feeling that he had to do something about it. Because he had the power. He glanced over his shoulder as he saw her sleeping. She was different. Just like the only other person in this world that he could call a friend. The only reason why he was free right now was because of that person, and they were still in Konoha. And he intended to save that person as well. Naruto glanced at this girl though. She was unusual. She didn't talk much. Life has forced her in that path. He could tell that she hates pretty much all shinobis. Her deep-seated rage was similar to his as he kept on looking at her. Time skip. Her eyes suddenly opened and she could see the light at the exit. However, when she gazed around, she was the only one inside. She tried to see if he was here, but everywhere she looked, empty. He left. he abandoned her. The first thoughts that rushed to her mind. She quickly got to her feet, a bit shaky, as she made her way towards the exit, not even knowing why. She just needed to be there. However, the silhouette blocked her vision for a moment as she blinked. To see him walking in with a lot of fruits that he seemed to have retrieved himself, holding it all in a basin. "You're awake," Naruto said, looking at her. "I figure that you would like some fruits. I came across this forest a few days ago, and it's just ripe with all kinds of fruits." Naruto saw the look on her face. "What's wrong?" I thought you left." Naruto stepped forward. "I made you a promise that I would not, and I don't really break my promises that easy," he said to her. Her face proceeded to smile on its own, a reaction to her being shown kindness and the feelings that she's so long forgotten. Happiness to know that he was still here with her. However, she lost her balance. Her body seemed to not have fully recovered just yet. But she did not hit the ground though. He caught her in his arms. "It's alright," he said. He picked her up bridal style. "Let's get you back to the comfy spot." As he started to walk, she thought that she would be repelled by his touch. The thought of people touching her in the past, after what she was put through, it was traumatic on her, but now she felt normal. She actually felt safe with him holding her. Time skip. A few days went by. The more time passed, the more she felt she could trust him. The more time passed, the more she regained her strength, and the more of her hatred returned. His goal was set. Her mind, what she asked him. She didn't know what she would do after. She completed her revenge. The Uchiha clan was still here, still alive. Some of those that put her life through utter hell. They were old now, extremely so. Maybe they were all dead, or maybe some of them survived. However, their children, their legacy passed down. And just the mere thought of that brought so much hate to her heart. And Naruto realized, just like him, if she did not let it out, she might explode. That is why after a few weeks, as she got her strength back, the both of them were standing in a tree. As they were gazing down towards the camp, it was a small camp, smaller than the ones that he usually go after. "You see them," said Naruto. Hikari stood right beside him as her gaze focused down on the people down below. The village nearby has lost 15 women in the last 3 days. That village, they don't have the resources or the money to get help from the other great villages. So yes, even if they knew about their plight, they will simply turn a blind eye. After all, that is what they care about, money, and that they have power. But little men like these, they get wiped out, they get targeted. Unfortunately though, the girls are not here. So this is linked to something perhaps bigger, said Naruto. Hikari's eyes hardened. "You and I are more similar than you think," said Naruto. "I can feel your growing frustration. I can feel your hate. Just like me. I felt like I was going to go crazy if I didn't let it out. And these vermits, they deserve nothing but to suffer. These are the people. They are the reason why the world the way it is right now. So, shall we?" The camp was not that large as stated before. When she pulled up on said camp, they were all immediately on their feet. She was dressed differently than before. Now she was wearing a different skirt. This color was more tan. She had on a shorts underneath that was connected to mesh running down towards her comfortable footwear, her ninja sandals. She was wearing a grey color shirt that doubled into a coat that hid her arms away from view. She stood there as their gaze fixated on her, many of them smiling, believing that they just hit the jackpot. For this girl to just come walking in here, this had to be some kind of big win for them. The 16-year-old stood there, her gaze calm as ever. They could not see anything under the coat. As she just stood there. Well, well, well. What do we have here? One of them stepped forward saying, with a smile on his face, the boss is gonna be shocked when we tell him about this. A pretty little thing like you, finding your way in our camp. He raised his arm, however. In the blink of an eye, it was gone. Yes, it was removed. He screamed as he dropped down to his knees, clutching onto his stump. She then pulled out the tonto that she had, the short tonto, and drive it right into his neck. The moment she did, she felt some of that pressure releasing from her, and it brought a smile to her face. The others were now on their guard. They all rushed towards her. She moved off with pure speed, shocking them. Meanwhile, the so-called boss, a flimsy-looking man, it was a big surprise that he was their boss. He was smiling until he saw what was happening. He thought that his boys were just making a few ruckus. What the hell? He said as he saw what was going on. He quickly rushed onto his guard, however, before he could even engage. A hand rested down on his shoulder. Move and you die. Make a sound and you die. He was frozen in fear as the words sent shivers down his spine. Despite the fact that his men were being slaughtered, he could only stand there and watch as they were massacred. Hikari was taking in deep breaths. There was blood splashed on her face. She gazed up towards the heavens as she felt so relief, so much more lighter than before. That is when she saw Naruto. She started to walk over. The boss refused to move an inch out of desperation and fear. She raised her blade. Wait, said Naruto. Tell me something. The girls that were kidnapped, where are they? They're not here. Come on now. You're not that stupid. I'm asking you, where were they taken? I can't. You can't tell me. Why not? Said Naruto. The man I work for, Naruto spun him around and grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. You think that you're going to survive if you don't tell me. And let me assure you, your death is going to be spectacular. Naruto dropped him as he gasped for breath. If I tell you what I know, will you let me go? He begged. Yeah, sure, said Naruto. His name is Gato. Me and a few others, we work for him. We're high up in the food chain then. He looked behind him at the corpses. He took the girls. I'm not sure where they are right now, but the last thing I heard, he was at the Land of Wave. Land of Wave, huh? Said Naruto. Well, thank you for the information. Naruto turned his back. You can kill him now. Wait, but you said slice. The both of them left the place on fire as it was burning. as they moved from tree branch to tree branch, taking what they need. They were making their way. So, said Naruto, how do you feel? I feel better, she said. I don't know why, but you're angry and upset. It might not look it, but I am as well. I have figured that the only way to get this frustration, to get this rage out is to fight it out. And if you're exterminating vermin while doing so, I see no problem with that. Thank you, she said, for helping me. My mind has not changed about what I desire to do. And I'm not going to stop you, said Naruto. You know what I seek already. But there's people in this world that do not deserve what you wish to lay upon them. She looked at him. The world is corrupted and broken, but there is a few good people in this world. We can come to a compromise. Your goal of the extermination of the shinobi race. We can come to a compromise, said Naruto. Like what exactly, she said. As they move and discuss, Naruto had learned a lot more about her. She opened up more to him. Yes, while he knew her history, he knew almost everything, her emotions. Was something that he could not read going on forward. It was odd and strange. He wondered if he was just not allowing himself to do it. Because simply gazing upon a person, Naruto could tell their intentions. He could tell their darkness inside of their hearts. It was because of these blessed abilities. But she was different. Or maybe he was just feeling connected to her. He was just like any other teenager. And given the fact that he was starved for affection throughout his whole life, always alone, always as the oddity, the one that was a problem. So having a confidant with him, someone that he could relate and talk to, felt great. Time skip. Finally, after 1 month and 2 weeks of non-stop D-rank missions, they were finally doing something else. Sakura Haruno, Ami Uzuki, and Menma Namikaze. They were heading towards a land of wave. Their sensei was Yamato. Yamato was a good sensei. He helped them in every area that they were lacking. And it was great that he was a well-experienced jonin, so yes. Even Sakura, she was always for the mental part of being a ninja, but the physical part, she was lacking. But Yamato was a great help in that department. And not to mention, he learned earlier on that she had amazing chakra control. Yes, fantastic chakra control. So that was something that he was helping her with. The group had made their way off. This was while Naruto and Hikari was taking on the bandits, and they were a far distance away from the Land of Wave. Their client, Tazuna, was pretty much of a hard ass. They ran into the Demon Brothers though. With the combined effort of Ami and Menma, they were easily taken down. Yamato didn't have to intervene at all. The team dynamic was also good. Sakura saw Menma as someone strong despite her strong feelings for Sasuke. She knew that Menma was strong. He and Sasuke were actually rivals. And Ami was good friends with Menma because of their family connection. His mother trained her sister. She wasn't a big fan of Sakura though, but she put it aside. She thinks Sakura was too much of a fangirl. So the team dynamic was not that bad. They decided to continue the mission, with Yamato sending behind a wood clone in order to ask for assistance from the Hidden Leaf. So with that, they headed off. When they came across Zabuza Mamakai, a very powerful swordsman. The bloodlust that the man released had Menma questioning if he truly wanted to stay a shinobi. This was far worse than he could ever imagine. Actually being on the field, feeling this bloodlust was truly affecting him, greatly so. However, Yamato released his chakra, clearing away all the bloodlust. As he took on Zabuza, Zabuza was shocked and caught off guard when Yamato pulled out his trusty technique, the Mokidan, the variant that came down from Hoshirama Senju. Well, that is what they thought, because that was the only way that he could possess it, right? He was related to the first Hokage. Zabuza was a powerful foe. Yamato had to put in the extra work in order to stay up with him. The man was a force to be reckoned with after all. However, Yamato was also a force to be reckoned with as well. However, in the end, the Mokiton came out on top. However, Yamato was roughed up pretty bad as well. So much so that he had to disengage. The battle ended in a draw, despite the fact that Zabuza had been sent through several trees. Yamato had to stop and catch his breath. He was bleeding but slowly healing. He had a healing ability but it wasn't as powerful as most others. The Genins were a big help in the display as well. Their sensei had got captured and their quick thinking freed him. Yamato was surveying the area waiting for Zabuza to return, but the man did not show himself again. It seems like he fled. Yamato slowly created a clone. As he had the clone proceed, the clone had taken more of his chakra than he expected because he was already low. However, the clone came back empty-handed. Zabuza had fled. Yamato ended up collapsing out of exhaustion. So with that, Tazuna was the one to carry him back. But still, he caused the A rank, missing named Zabuza Mamakai, to flee. If that wasn't a huge accomplishment, it is hard to say what is. The group came up on the state of the Land of Wave, and they were glad that they decided to continue this mission. They were appalled to what Gato was doing to this land, that monster. As they headed back to the house, time skip, Naruto and Hikari had decided to rest for the night. The location that they were at was still a distance away from the Land of Wave, but they will get there. They were intending on bringing down this Gato and his goons and saving those girls. After all, it wasn't Gato's intention to kill the girls, but to sell them, and that would provide a good angle for Naruto, for him to find who he was selling these girls to. Who are the monsters that are buying slaves? This also angered Hikari, given what her life was. So they headed off the moment they were ready. They did not even wait till the morning light spread through the heavens. While that was going on, Yamato, who recovered faster than usual, started to train the kids. When Team 9 arrived, it was a backup that Minato sent. The group did not know each other, so they introduced themselves. Guy knew Yamato though. They started to formulate a plan together. They were not sure if Zabuza would be returning by himself. Given their last encounter, perhaps he would be bringing someone. Perhaps Gato would hire more forces, so having Team 9 here was a godsend. However, Gato did not know that Team 9 was here, so Zabuza would be going in by himself. Well, his partner was here, but no extra help from Gato. 5 days. Yes, that is what it took. 5 days. Zabuza was back on his feet as he readied himself and headed to the bridge. However, standing in mid-air, as his gaze fixated on the islands, Naruto came diving back down as he landed. Hikari was still amazed that he could fly. I'm not sure what this Gato looked like. But there's a mass of thugs on one of the islands where a mansion reside. The girls, they're there. But not just them, countless others. Hikari clenched her fists. Naruto held his hand out to her. She took his hand as the both of them lifted off the ground. Naruto flying the both of them towards the island. Gato, none of his men were prepared for someone to descend from the heavens. As they landed, while that was going on, Zabuza was making his way towards the bridge. Unfortunate for him though, Team 9 was now there. However, unfortunate for all of them, Naruto was here. And his brother, Menma, was here. This was going to be bad. Very, very, very bad. But guys, the end subscribe right here. If you want to see next part, and do like, subscribe, comment down below. Turn on that bell notification to stay posted. But I'm hoping to see you guys soon. Peace.